since then. Now, this is one I think is really interesting. So this is sort of joking. I called it quitters versus losers. So teams that used to play big time football and stopped versus teams that just traditionally lost a lot. I think you see like this one's kind of stunning to me because teams can stink and not do really well for a long time but be in the associations, thriving as institutions, and then when the time comes, thrive.
Yep.
I mean, Baylor's a great example of this. You know, there were decades where Baylor wasn't a real football power, but you know, Baylor stayed in the midst of it. Didn't just like be like right isn't over with Rice. And look today, you know, Baylor's on top of the world, ready for Dr. Livingstone to launch the institution into higher stratosphere. Same thing with Vanderbilt, Stanford, Wake Forest, Northwestern. Northwestern's especially interesting because Northwestern was like, they pleaded with Northwestern to join the Ivy League in the early 80s. And they were awful in the Big Ten. I mean, awful.
Yeah, they and Kansas State, to me, Gary Barnett at Northwestern and Bill Snyder at Kansas State were two of the most unbelievable rebuilding or rebuilding job. Not even rebuilding because there was nothing built. The most amazing turnarounds in college football history.
Oh, completely. And Pacific and Stanford is an interesting one too. I mean, Pacific was actually coached at one point by Amos Alonzo Stagg. Pacific is one of the teams that was looking to replace USC, UCLA, and Berkeley in the Pacific Coast Conference until they got fully dissolved in a coup. And they weren't that different from Stanford back in the day. And today there's a huge difference. Look at Villanova. Villanova was the stupidest one of all. Joe Paterno, Swami that he was, understood the importance of conferences, and Joe Paterno wanted the Big East to have a big football conference. And Villanova was the one that cast the deciding vote that kicked Penn State or vetoed Penn State from the Big East.
I did not know that. Paul, did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, today Joe Paterno. This is fascinating stuff. We can go over another time, but Joe Paterno really pushed. He saw the conferences happening, and a lot of it had to do with sort of what happened with Penn and the Ivy League. Kind of interesting stuff. But Paterno was the one. He wanted Penn State. They created what today is the A10. It had another name back in the 70s, and it wasn't quite working. People were defecting to the Big East. And Penn State wanted in the Big East, and the Big East got all snotty and said, "Oh, you're not very good at basketball, so no." What's his name? I think Mike Treghese was the one who said it was the biggest mistake we ever made.
Dang, okay.
So this is you guys covering Baylor. You can lose for a lot of decades, and all of a sudden you don't lose anymore.
Wait a minute. That picture has Armstrong in it, Jack McKenzie in it. We got to get to your picture, crew. Emory. We got to get Emory. And we got
I repurposed something.
Well, it's okay. Got Grayson. Is that Evan Miyakawa?
Yeah.
Got all your people.
Yeah.
Got all your people.
The Jennifer Smoak?
Yeah.
Well, the commissioner, I actually have something else to send to you guys that sort of relates to this, but the commissioner always hangs with the coolest people.
She's with RG3 and Dr. Livingstone.
Yeah. No, the commissioner is and all of these, you'll notice the commissioner is with the coolest people.
Oh, my Lord.
Lateral defectors. So this is actually where the academic research got interesting, because this is where they find that there's not a big difference. And the flagship examples of this are Nebraska and Colorado, Syracuse, Maryland, UConn, Missouri. The schools that didn't sort of make a big jump in their new conferences. And this, I think, is deceptive info from some of the academic studies, because some of these schools got forced into it. Like the collapse of the Big East, Syracuse and BC really got screwed over by Harvard, Princeton, Yale, when they created a league before the Ivy League, and it was a stupid idea. Your readers, if your readers ever find it fascinating, I can make a video for you or something on it. But it really sabotaged and torpedoed Northeast football. And so they never recovered from that. And then they got saddled with the Big East, adding insult to injury. And so, they really weren't on an acceleration. Usually when we see realignment happening, when realignment succeeds, it's because an institution is on an acceleration track. You look at Michigan State. Michigan State was the Michigan Agricultural College in 1920. UCLA was not even created. They seized a junior college in 1919, finally decided to make it a real school in 1926. 30 years later, 30 years from an agricultural school and a not existing school on a seized junior college. They were playing for the national championship, both getting into the AAU and both ranked in, the top 20 schools and the 30 schools in the country academically. So
Tony, let me ask you this. Because of what you just said about UCLA or others who have, in some cases, benefited because they've joined conferences, this
one's for you to fix Nebraska. Go ahead.
No, you can't fix Nebraska. Nothing. Does this give, at least, even though it's modern day, anybody hope that is being left out, at least for right now, among the Power Five? Is there a story to tell because of what the story you just told us with UCLA?
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple stories to tell. One of them actually is that you take a look at. Actually, let me just flick back to this one. One of the stories to tell is that if you get in, you want to get in because you want to hang out with the best schools. One thing about the SEC, you'll notice the SEC has made a major academic upgrade in its expansion. The SEC is only adding like great academic schools. They don't talk about that as much, but they are. Like it's OU and AAU members only are what the SEC has added. So like, for example, a school like SMU that's trying to get their R1 and trying to get AAU down the road, Memphis just got their R1, those type of schools, like there is success when you start hanging with those in that better rarefied air. And so you want that. And, a school like Boise State that's on a trajectory, they may not necessarily like fit with the Pac schools, but whatever they can do to make that acceleration happen helps. We also see it with the Big East that you can also grow a conference. And, I think there's something to be maybe said for the AAC and they're starting to do it a little bit, but like they've got some powerhouse academic schools in the AAC. And, if they could really churn, to sort of link up their disparate parts, I think they could have some interesting success. I thought this was interesting. So the Ivy League got real snotty when they were founded.
I love this page. I read this page. It's amazing who wanted it or